I just a little caveat earlier. Sometimes I get kicked off um, for some reason here on my internet, and if that happens, everybody just stay put, and I'll get myself back on. Okay. Hopefully, we'll be okay though. So, welcome everyone. Um, This is I'm really excited. I'm gonna get started here right away, but I'm excited because I've tried to talk about this uh, a number of times. I've probably worked on it too hard. Not like this particular presentation, but other ones. And the topic basically is about character and personality. And because type and personality traits are um, they're different. They're different. They're different theories. And handwriting also works with a different theory. And that's kind of what this is about. Um, so it's been just to let you know, I've probably worked most intensively in the past decade on this. So don't worry if you're having trouble with getting the concept, just kind of, I'm
Gotcha.
sure I'll talk about it more, you know. And I'm trying not to belabor any of the points, but just to kind of give you um, an introduction both to why type is so significant for a handwriting analyst and uh, what, um, here we go. Oh, hold on. I forgot to open up. Sorry. Yeah, why type is so significant for handwriting analysts is the first thing. And then the kind of things, there we go. I was on the wrong window. Um, oh, hold on just a second. I'm in class. Oh, okay, thank you. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Sorry, guys. Um, okay, one more try. This is I'm wanting to go to the advanced. Uh, okay, here we go. There we portion of screen. There we go. Okay. Okay, can everybody see the slides? The slide there, the opening slide, introducing graphologists to MBTI
Yes.
app and global assessment. Okay. So today I'll talk about how Jungian types are useful for handwriting analysts. But first, of course, I want you to grab a pen and a piece of paper, and we'll do a little writing test. Okay. So I'm an independent consultant with the Myers Briggs Company, and my master's degree in counseling qualifies me to provide you with the official psychometric assessments, And that's kind of part of the introduction that I can back this up. And that's why I'm wanting to show you that I can support you, not just tell you about this, but get these in front of you and in front of your clients. And it's all on the computer. Okay. So what I want you to do with your pen is practice signing your name there. Okay. Has everyone done that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so now write your name with the other hand.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Take your time, whatever it takes. Let me know when you're ready.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So the
Excuse me, Victor, did
Yeah,
you
go
want
ahead.
us to sign our name with the left hand or write? Like print.
If you can sign your name with the left hand, go ahead. It's sign or write, whatever you want to do. Just use
Victor,
the left
are we
hand.
supposed to be doing this on the screen some way? Because I
No,
can't make it
on a
work.
piece of paper. Just
Okay,
do it
yeah,
on a
yeah.
piece of paper. Yeah. Yeah. So here is part of the Myers Briggs Complete. That's an assessment plus an interactive learning platform that is part of the assessment. After the assessment, it is like a teaching tool for the client who takes the assessment. And one of the first things they have the person do is this exercise. Exactly. Is that not interesting? And so here, using your preferred hand, was it easier? Does it take little energy? Can it be done faster? Does it feel natural? And
Yeah.
for the Myers-Briggs or, Jungian type, this is the concept. This is addressing the concept of what preference means. You have a preference in what hand you're using. And then in addition, there's this the 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 hand that is not preferred. Well, was it harder? Demands more energy and may get tiring. Must be done more slowly. Feels a bit awkward. Feels somewhat clumsy. Were these things kind of part of what you were experiencing with that? I kind of saw it.
All of the above.
Yeah, requires conscious attention, is less efficient. Okay.
Mm.
So this is about in the Myers-Briggs theory and Jungian theory, but Myers-Briggs has taken the Jungian theory and they've applied this concept of preference, and that the use, that the function is about, okay, function, you're doing this thing with your hand, and as you use it more and more, it becomes more and more useful and easier to do, and you tend to go there first. See? So, but then if you notice, this is a great picture. If you notice here, the non-preferred hand is also being used. It's used for support.
Yeah.
It's literally support. It's it's used. It's part of that whole process, and this is what the Jungian theory is about, that wholeness of the self. So we're looking at these functions and we'll get into that, but the just simply thinking about the preferred is what we get used to using. Through using it over and over again, that's where we go first. We get more efficient with it, we get better at it. But we have other abilities that are supportive and we're not so aware of, and they're maybe less developed, but they have a role in how we're performing. And that's really the theory. So this handwriting and Myers-Briggs assessment, and what do graphologists and Myers Briggs type consultants have in common? So we've been, over the last several months, I've been talking about this, and we've talked about that there are 3 ways to assess Jungian type.
Mm.
You know, anyone who's heard this, who's been around, wanna call out what they remember about those 3 ways, one of those 3 ways? Yeah. Like the body language and lifestyle of the person that,
Yeah.
that Carol Shoemate was working with.
Mm.
Okay. And then there's the handwriting analysis.
Yeah.
Yeah, that Vindelleaf
Mm.
was is quite an expert in, and there's quite a lot of stuff around the handwriting analysis, and the Jungian types. And then the third one is the MBTI.
Mm.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah,
Behavioral, wasn't it? Was it?
yeah, the
Mm.
kind of the body language, what you observe, the
Yeah.
behavior. Yes. And then the MBTI assessment itself, the psychometric assessment. And so that's what we're looking at how the MBTI can come into and contribute to these other two. So here, Vindelleef's book that was published this year, and actually probably one of the most significant contributors to Jungian type and handwriting, is Ania Tillard. This is a kind of a scanned copy of the English translation of her book, The Soul and Handwriting,
Yeah.
that's available from the AHOF library to members.
Mm.
So anyone interested in learning more on this, send me an email. Let me know, and I'll be sure to remind me. I'll put my email into the chat, because I want to go deeper into this. But that's a whole, like we've been introducing these things, and I want to put together kind of like a more of a training and going through some of these readings. So, but Vindelleef sent this table of the different ways of presenting the kind of the 4 letters, how to describe the 16 personality types that relate to Jung's theory. The 16 personality types, if you look at the far left column here, don't worry about the details. We'll get into that more. I just want you to be aware that here is on the left, the far left is the 4-letter, the 4 letters of the MBTI 4-letter form of it. And then in parentheses next to it is the classic 3-letter form that Vindelleef talked to us about. That's kind of like the handwriting analysts that were connected with Carl Jung have been using traditionally. And then this third column identifies the attitude, that is, whether it's introverted or extroverted. And then these last 4 columns here are the 4 function attitudes of each of these types in their 4 respective positions. So this is 3 different ways of describing, of representing each of the 16 personality types between those different things. That's all. I'm just wanting to show you that the 3 things we were talking about, the handwriting, the functional attitudes, And the Myers Briggs, they have different ways of talking about it, different ways of showing it, and they each kind of have a different perspective that can help to understand and identify the type.
Victor,
Yes, yes.
So the most important one to start with is either introverted or extroverted, and everything else works off that. Is that correct?
Well, it depends which system you're looking at.
At this
But
system.
yes, the Myers-Briggs goes with the introverted and extroverted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we'll be talking about that. I've got an example that works with that here coming up in a few minutes. So now the Myers-Briggs MBTI, the MBTI, the psychometric assessment, actually Myers, the mother, she was working on this thing back during World War I. Okay. Developing her own classification system for the personality type. Okay. In 1923, when she found Jung's psychological type, she realized this was very powerful, and she started working with using his theory to apply it to the test methods that we call psychometric assessment. Okay. Now, then in the 40s, you know, it was developed an experimental thing, you know, for experimental use. 40s, late 40s into the 50s. It wasn't until 77 that the original version, 1977, that it was commercially available. And then it's been continued to be developed. So for example, in 2001, there were 20 additional facets besides the 4. You know, there's the 4 the 4, each of those letters represents one of the factors in it. But then underneath each of those letters, the Briggs was working with and finally developed the facets that underlie each of those 4. And that's what step 2 is about. Very powerful. So that was developed and made available in 2001. And then in 2016, basically the data, you know, until then, the data that had been gathered was focused on the United States. You know, first it was like college students, high school students. Then it was like various job classification groups. But in 2016, they had developed and connected through countries throughout the world so that there is now a form that works worldwide and you know, first with Europe and UK and then East Asia. And so it's allowing basically people anywhere to be taking this assessment and it to be pretty accurate and then to be able to compare it even internationally between different nations. That it's a massive project and it continues to be updated and stuff. Then
If I recall right, I think it was like around
Yeah.
1968 that it exploded in this country.
yes,
60s and 70s.
yes, the 60s and 70s, I think it became it is the most popular. So and then global step 2 with the 20 facets. Yeah. So global step 1 was developed, the 4 factors. But then in 2018, they had developed step 2 that included those extra under each of the 4 factors. There's like 25 facets, making 4 times 5, 20 additional specific things that can give specificity. And I'll give you an example about this. I just want you to recognize that this is not the same as a free Facebook quiz. Okay. It's a massive project over a long time that continues to be supported by all of this data and research. So up front, basically, I'll be talking about the app, and that's like about $12.99 American dollars, $9.65 for pounds. I don't know the euros, but you get an idea. I want you to kind of have an idea. These are not expensive, okay? And the MBTI Complete assessment and interactive learning platform. So normally I priced that at 99. And for you guys, special price of $79.99. So I just want you to know the price. Okay. So you're not wondering, we're not going to be surprised at the end. This is just what it is. So basically, my idea is simple. Okay. That the handwriting is a projective assessment that helps you identify the aspects of Jungian type that are from the unconscious self. Okay. And the psychometric instrument, the MBTI assessment, is a questionnaire that the person specifically answers these questions that identifies their conscious ego, what they are consciously aware that they have their preferences for. Okay. So those preferences that they don't know about actually show up in the handwriting pretty directly, you know. And it's a matter, this is why I see this as very powerful, to bring these together and to be making this interconnection between these separate, independent kind of methods for assessing type. So to help you relax about this, you know, Judy, you had some questions about what your question was. Very good question. How, you know, starts with the I or E, the extroverted or introverted. Well, I've written an article that goes through all of the 16 personality types in the Vanguard. Not this most current one, but the one right before that. So, on judging and perceiving by the nose, it's called. And you can get all of that because I can't go through that right here, and it's easier to just kind of like sit through it at your own pace and go through it. I wrote basically the same thing with a slightly different, the same stuff with additional kind of theory in the graphologist that's in the current graphologist about perceiving and judging in handwriting, part 1. Okay. So you don't need, like, don't get bogged down by this. You can look at this and you can ask me questions, you know, as you run into it, as you're working on that at your own pace. So this is what we're going to do. Let me see how good I am on the time. Yeah, I take a long time. Anyway, so the Myers Briggs company is global, okay? And the app is a cloud-based assessment, you know, between the app with the cloud-based assessment and an interactive learning platform. That's what we're going to be talking about. Part 1 is about graphology and the MBTI. And Um, so I'm going to give an example. I'm going to give an example to kind of help you understand how the handwriting and type works and the Myers Briggs work. And then we're going to look at the theory about the difference between type and trait. Okay, and that'll complete our part one. Then we'll get into the software and about the MBTI app,
Mm, mm,
the MBTI Global Step 1 and 2, where I'll give you examples from my assessment so you can see what that looks like. And the
mm.
MBTI Complete that's includes the interactive learning platform in addition to the assessment, as part of the assessment. Okay. Any questions from what we've covered so far? I'm
Show
gonna,
us the app.
yeah, I'm sorry, the app?
Yeah, I want to see the software.
Oh, yeah, we'll get it. But first I want to kind of let you see how this thing works with handwriting, and then we'll be doing the app at the very beginning of the second part. I'll 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 try to I'll pause between these sections, and at the end of the first section, because this is a little bit detailed. So the Trumpian example of this is about, I want you to, the main thing that shows up with Trump's assessment is about extroversion and issues around this concept of extroversion and introversion. Sorry, okay. No. So let me tell you something, okay? Some young person here in the future, 60 years from now, is going to become famous by explaining the character of this paradoxical leader. Okay.
Leader?
It was 64 years after Bonaparte was exiled on an island in the middle of the South Atlantic that Jean Hippolyte Michon, the founder of graphology, became famous from publishing in 1879 his historical research on the development of Napoleon's character through the lens of his handwriting. So this is not a minor thing, but we're not going to look at the whole character. We're just going to look at the kind of the 5-factor personality traits. Okay. If you remember, those are like the openness, the conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. Is this familiar to everybody?
Yeah.
So this is based on trait theory, factor analysis trait theory, okay? And when there is less extroversion, then there is more introversion, okay? So that means, let's take the extroversion. As this becomes a higher amount of extroverted trait, a higher score on the extroverted test or scale on the personality test, then there's less introverted, okay? Now, a lower score on the extroversion scale means there's more introverted. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
This is trait theory, okay? Type theory is different. Type theory, let's take example, but I'll show you in a little bit, but I just want you to understand, like for in this scale, in the trait theory, extroversion, so when you're in the middle of this scale, what are you? Anyone? Ambivert. Ambivert.
Mm.
Okay. But for type theory, an ambivert is when there is a balance between the orientation, the development of two different functions, one oriented, extroversion oriented, and the other introversion oriented. So we're talking about the function itself is oriented either as an extrovert, that means facing out towards the world, or and a different function is inward facing, which is introverted. And when you have the development of those two functions, that with one and the other both develop to a certain, kind of conscious, and you've developed that in your character, then there's a balance between how you're interacting in the world, how you're responding consciously and mastering that, rather than kind of immaturely, and how you're able to be self-reflective inwardly. That's the principle of this type theory. Okay, you got that difference, because it's going to become very significant here. Any questions on that, about those two? So Trump's 5-factor assessment, okay, at the top is his extroversion score, which is almost at the maximum. Okay. And it's at the, yeah. See, I mean, 4 is the highest here, and it's 3.5, yeah, on that scale. So then the openness is at the bottom, a moderate amount, okay, and the middle here, what, I didn't say that right, no. Here it is. This one right here, the second from the bottom is called, it's the neuroticism. Neuroticism would be over here, and this is emotional stability, is the opposite of neuroticism. Okay, so if he was on the high end of this scale, it would show up here. Let me clarify something here. They didn't like to use the word neuroticism because it seemed to imply something bad about the person. So they flipped the scale and they called it emotional stability. Okay. So you can see that here, Donald J. Trump is very low on emotional stability. Okay. That's the neuroticism scale. And low on pretty much the other two, conscientiousness and agreeableness. So basically, we're looking at the extreme extroversion. Okay. That basically means he can sell, well, in terms of sales ability, this extroversion is usually what is identified as being able to sell a refrigerator, what is it, an icebox to an Eskimo or something like that.
Excuse me, Victor.
Yes.
Are you grading him? Did you do these scores, or he took the test?
No, this is here average scores are based on ratings provided by 28 experts All variables range from 0, very low, to 4, very high. And
I mean,
there's
are these
there's a report on that.
experts? Are these experts type
No, no, no.
experts?
This isn't about
Experts
type.
in
This
what?
is the big five. This is trait theory.
What are the experts
Experts-
expert in?
Yeah.
But I
Who
mean,
are the
who's
experts?
who
I
are they?
can send you this whole report. There's a
Yeah, but
report
who
that
are the
goes into-
experts? The ratings are
Psychologists
provided by
trained-
28 experts, but
Yeah.
what are they expert in?
Yeah.
They're experts in the assessment
Okay,
of these personality
okay,
characteristics. Yeah.
I mean, are they psychologists?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, because some people might challenge some of the, who are these
Of course.
experts?
Of course. I have that report. I can send it to you.
I would love it. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's see. We're there. So I wanted to show you here with the handwriting and things we had learned to look at about the handwriting. We're thinking, is there regularity in the handwriting? Then it should be J, but I'll actually let me come back to this because I want to show you the controversy over his type pieces. So what we've talked about the handwriting, I think, Carl, you might remember, you said this was helpful, that we look at regularity and irregularity of the writing.
Yeah.
We look at the rhythm, whether it's awkward, showing, or whether it's highly rhythmical. The left and right trend,
Yeah.
in relating to extroversion and introversion, and the zone emphasis, where the middle zone is the rational functions, and the upper and lower zone are the irrational functions.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
what's interesting, I don't want to belabor it, but that if we look at Trump's handwriting, the heavy pressure indicates that he's got the sensing function, okay? But if you look, there's not much of a lower zone emphasis, okay? Maybe it kind of comes down in his signature. So that's puzzling, okay? That is puzzling. And then regularity, judging, not perceiving, if it's regularity, then the judging is the predominant, but he lacks rhythm, so lacks development, and there's not a flow in most of the writing, in the main part of the writing, but his signature does seem to have that dynamic movement to it. Okay, so we're talking about the heavy pressure but not lower zone, and then the large writing, of course, indicating the extroverted. The awkward printing shows lack of rhythm, that there's a lack of development going on. Okay, then let's look at this other handwriting sample of his, which seems to have more flow, more relaxed. See, so the question here is, his middle zone emphasis is indicating the thinking and feeling is going to be the second function in addition to the sensing. Is that making sense, guys? some of you that have been here a while. So we're looking at his sensing is obvious, heavy pressure. So the sensing function, the dominant is extroverted sensing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then where we're having a question about, is he a feeling? Is his auxiliary function feeling or thinking function? And it's interesting that his, like in this, you're seeing more rigid and sharp
Mm.
angles. And in this, they seem to be a little bit more rounded,
Yeah.
you know?
Mm.
So here's kind of like another, there's like additional pieces that you can look at, but I just wanted to get to that we're going to look at here, whether the the extroverted sensing is obvious. So we've got the ESP, because it's extroverted sensing. But then the question becomes, is it going to be T or F in his auxiliary, in his second position? Okay, and let me show you. Yeah. So this is kind of the a close-up of that chart that Vindelif gave us, the ESTP or the ESFP, with the extroverted sensing in the first position, and then for the second position it would be introverted thinking. Okay, and for ESFP, the second position would be introverted feeling. Okay, so that's where the question is.
Yeah.
And I want to show you there's there's a discussion about this among kind of the, what do you call it? The nerds, the Myers type, MBTI type nerds, okay? So most people think that he's an ESTP,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And that's extroverted sensing, thinking, perceiving, but it would be introverted thinking. And here's like that assessment chart with the two, the dominant and the auxiliary functions on it that we talked about, showing, because kind of the way the theory goes is that if you've, the first function is extroverted,
Yeah.
the second function develops as an introverted function
Yeah.
to balance out the first function.
Yeah.
Victor,
Yes.
wasn't it it's always puzzled me why they have to be opposite. Isn't it so that Vindelef said that the original Jungians didn't have that rule?
That's correct. That's correct. They didn't have that rule, and in a minute you're going to see kind of why.
Okay.
But there's kind of there's a usefulness of considering this, because what you're seeing is, using this diagram, it helps you to think about, okay, is it Fi or Ti? Is it F or T?
Yeah.
Okay. And for those who may have been here before, remember, these are like the four functions related to the first two positions for P. And these are the four functions related to the first two positions for a judging, for perceiving type and for judging type. And so from that thing about perceiving and judging, you need to understand that if it's an SE, if it's an extroverted sensing, that's what makes it perceiving. And we're convinced it's extroverted sensing, the heavy pressure, the large writing. Okay. So the auxiliary is going to be an introverted, or it won't be P. But I want to show you something. Let's look at the handwriting. Remember, we were puzzled about how the regularity. I mean, to me, in a way, this seems kind of obsessively regular. You see what I'm saying about regularity? Even this that's like a little more flowing, there's still quite a regularity about it. Okay. So remember from the handwriting, the irregularity is usually what shows up if it's a perceiving type. Regularity shows up in the judging type. And remember, what makes that difference has to do with, hold on, let me go down here. What makes that difference has to do with that the judging type has extroverted feeling or extroverted thinking in one of these two positions. Yeah. Okay.
Victor,
this-
I want to
yeah.
add something.
Yes.
I always think the judging type makes decisions easily and the perceiving not. So I would have thought he's a judger.
Well, you see, this is the whole point, that this is a confusing character, and that's what I'm getting at, that that's what makes it worthy of this study. And we're looking at exactly the judging aspect. And that's backed up. What you're suspecting is backed up by the regularity of the writing.
Yeah.
You know? So don't get bogged down here, but it's like a tree diagram where you're thinking, okay, he's got this. Why isn't this other one happening? Well, here we have what would be obvious, the ESTP, you know, but here is an unusual one. And the more I've thought about it, the more I'm kind of agreeing with this other person. Let me show you. So normal development is that you develop the dominant function and then the auxiliary function, number 2. And then you develop the tertiary function. Okay. Now, this person believes that that Trump actually, his auxiliary function was introverted feeling, but because of the way his father berated him and everything, kind of he ignored introverted aspects and pushed himself to his tertiary function of extroverted thinking. And that's what this person is actually addressing. And the more, like, I was amazed when I read this article in the Medium, but then as I've thought about it more and more, and I hear more and more about kind of his character and stuff like that, because I tend to feel like that he was stunted in his development here of his auxiliary, and he went straight to his tertiary, both because he wasn't supported. He avoids the introverted aspect the introverted functions that would support his extroversion and to be introspective. So he's not introspective at all, or
Mm.
barely. See, so when you have the tertiary as extroverted thinking and extroverted sensing being the most developed, it explains why he's so extroverted, and very little development even in his auxiliary. See how this is kind of like, this is sort of a clinical breakdown of figuring out what is wrong with this guy. Excuse my French, but that's he didn't have a normal development. He's developed certain powers, and that means his feeling function remains unconscious, which is why people are attracted to him.
Mm.
Certain people that, yeah, because there's a lot of things that start making sense in the typology and understanding that. The main
Victor,
piece
did
is,
you just say people are attracted to him because his feeling function is unconscious?
it's let me describe it this way. This is where, and we're not going to get into this, but this is where the collective unconscious, the archetypal forces start coming in. And we start talking about whenever you haven't developed something consciously, then you are influenced by the archetype of that, the unconscious archetype. That's where the theory goes, where Jung's theory goes about this. And the unconscious archetype, this is why things become so cultish and kind of super religious with people that are involved like this, because it's a collective unconscious thing going on. But that's for another lecture.
What stands out most in my mind about his personality is how vengeful he is.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a list of all his enemies perceived, and he's constantly going after them. Well, man, that's got to be a lot of feelings behind that.
Yes.
You don't let up going after these people.
And unconscious feelings. It's the lack of development is what you're seeing. And also, he doesn't have a way, he hasn't developed his introversion functions to be able to be self-reflective and learn from things. So everything has to be blamed on something out there. That's what that extroversion shows up, is the lack of balance. So this is Jung's theory, and how the Myers Briggs types are like a way of examining what's balanced. And when you're finding someone that's really not in balance, what's going on, because it's really a clinical thing. That's what he developed it for, to support a person in their development. And that's really what I wanted to get across here with this.
Victor, I'd like to add a couple things. It seems to me maybe he's balanced in the thinking and the feeling, and maybe that's part of his appeal to so many people.
If he was balanced, it would show up in his handwriting as more integrated.
To me, the signature is thinking, and the body of the writing is feeling.
Yeah.
In this one, or in this?
But all of them.
Yeah.
I also want to add one other thing, and I'm hesitant to add it, but I just feel I must.
Yeah, go ahead.
According to the typology I learned with the animals, which is also known as the Hippocrates typology, There are some introverts who write large and some extroverts who write small. And I'm not suggesting that Trump is introverted in any way. I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, and this is what the Jungian type theory addresses that. Okay, that you can have you can be dominant extrovert and be using that, and if you develop, in a kind of you develop through the natural process, because there is a natural process for each person. It's not the same for everybody. It's their natural process. And if you develop through that natural process, you can have the extroversion, and then later in life, you can develop more of those introverted aspects and be kind of more rounded. That's the whole point, that you don't lose your extroversion abilities by developing the introversion functions. You have them all. You just don't have them all operating at the same time. Yeah. Okay. So, are there any dying questions on this? The general gist, and Claudio, I know, I don't know your background with Myers type. Do you have questions, kind of like, are you getting the main sense about how the balancing happens?
No, it makes sense, and we have a book in the Italian graphology. But what I was thinking, sorry, just in the Enneagram world, there is exactly the same. We will talk privately, but there is a debate about two different types, and I believe it's the same question.
Yes, with the Enneagram, you mean?
No, 50% of Enneagram experts think is a type 3. That is the emotional, the feeling function underdeveloped.
Yeah.
And 50% of other experts think is a type 8.
Yeah. That's fascinating. Yeah.
And we can talk about it privately, but I think it's the same exact questions.
Yeah. This is thank you for contributing that. But yes, it's there's definitely this discussion going on.
Yeah, but I think the point is exactly the feeling. The feeling function. How is in Trump the feeling function? How is developed or underdeveloped, or which kind of?
Yeah, because the feeling function also relates to loyalty. And
exactly.
And he's all about people have to absolutely be loyal to him. But it's all about him, and he's doesn't have any loyalty to anyone else, according to
that is exactly the point in the Enneagram debate. Yes.
So this is fascinating. See, it's a whole, I told you I was sticking a lot in here. So but the point I want to make here is that difference between type theory and trait theory. Okay. That trait theory, it's only showing you, like basically what you see. And psychological type is more about examining what's going on behind, that's unconscious, that you can't necessarily see. Okay. And the the handwriting analysts have kind of always pointed to Dr. Frederick's research on that shows graphologists could identify actual suicide notes from fake suicide notes. And this peer-reviewed research has been replicated in double-blind studies a number of times, okay? So graphologists are kind of proud to point to this kind of stuff to show that it works, okay? But here, the Bernstein brothers' skeptical attack against graphologists was actually what provoked me, you know, and, you know, kind of into trying to understand all of this. And which I forgot to mention, here's a picture of me and two of my brothers when I escaped up to the southern Appalachian Mountains to study this more deeply after I presented some of my ideas to the American Psychological Association Division 24 at the winter meeting in Atlanta for the Society of Theoretical and Philosophical Psychology in March of 2014. Yeah. So I've been, what I'm trying to say is I've been thinking about this a long time. And I thought I understood it even then, right then, but it's so I'm summarizing some of these things to get at the meat of it. And this is the thing. JFK Jr. has proved that skepticism is not the same as critical thinking. And so Dale Bernstein, his article on graphology and the philosophy of science, he basically was saying that it didn't matter about all of this research on suicide notes and showing that graphologists can identify all of that, no matter how good the research is, because, you know, suicide is just a temporary thing. You know, the suicidal ideation is temporary. And the personality traits are enduring qualities which correspond to long-term personality characteristics, like, you know, nervousness and stuff like that. So this is what led me to recognize, okay, what is this? What are traits, personality traits? They're measured a certain way, and type is measured a certain way. Well, the thing is that about the same time that Fredericks published his thing about suicide notes, Walter Mischel published his dissertation on personality and assessment that basically proved that you know, the individual differences or personality traits did not predict behavior, as well as the situation predicting the behavior.
Yes.
Okay.
Great.
Now,
Yeah.
now I have to say,
Excuse me, Victor, what do you mean by situation?
Okay, this is saying that he was comparing, he was working with disconfirming the personality trait theory, and he did it. Okay. Situation means, are you at work or are you at home? Okay. There you have two different situations. Okay. And this is the thing. Okay, so there was this big deal going on in the 70s to save personality trait theory. And I've seen a bunch of stuff, but it's kind of faded. But all I can say about psychology and psychology theories is that they're like retired soldiers who never die but just fade away. And I don't hear anyone actually talking about fixed trait theory. They just keep changing, and they kind of refer to it without really identifying their theory. That's a whole nother thing. I'm working on a more in-depth article on it for the graphologist. So the person that really got clarity about this for me was this James Lamiel, who got me, you know, he was president actually of the Philosophical Psychology Society back about a decade ago. So this is the thing, type theory. This is the main thing to recognize about the difference. Type theory relates many characteristics that are interacting in one individual. Trait theory relates one characteristic comparable to many different individuals.
Mhm.
That's the difference. Okay. They use different statistics. You don't need to know any statistics. Just know they use different statistics. The MBTI uses different statistics for verification than the 5-factor tests, okay, or the CPI, or, you know, the trait-based tests. So graphology is an assessment also of many characteristics interacting in one individual. Okay? You got it?
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
the main point. This is
Yes.
why
So MBTI.
this is why I see this so profoundly, that we
Yeah.
have a psychometric,
Yeah.
we have a psychometric instrument.
Mhm.
We have that addresses the concerns of personality trait, you know. But there's more to the psychological type than the personality aspect of it. And those, you know, that's where the handwriting analysis as a projective assessment
Yeah.
can give us more information. And that's what makes it so powerful.
Mm.
Okay. So I'm at the end of part 1, I think, here. Let's see.
Mm.
Yeah, we're 10 after 8, guys.
Mm.
How are you guys doing?
Very interesting, very interesting.
Because
Yes.
Yeah.
I probably have about 20 more slides. We could go into part 2. This is what's left.
Mm.
And I wanted you to understand that before we talked about this. Otherwise, you know, it's kind of the why. Why would you even bother to be using these psychometric things when we have the handwriting, you know? But it can be useful. So the MBTI app, let me at least get to that. The 16 personality types and function attitudes. Okay, and then I'll go into the step 1 and step 2. It's just a few slides. And the last one, we may have to pause because it actually is a couple of slides, but maybe you'll get the idea and we can whiz through that. Okay, so the MBTI, or I'm sorry, it's called the Myers Briggs App. I don't know why I said Myers Briggs app. Okay. You'll see it has the 16 personality types on these diamonds. I have it on my iPhone. If we do a little thing where we go into it in more depth, I'll put it up on my iPhone on the screen and you can see this, but I have some screenshots to show you some of what goes on here. You can click. So here is my type, ENTP, and you can click on these and they'll give you information, see, bite-sized insights about each of these types. The interactive type table of those 16 personality types.
Right.
It's a summary of all 16 MBTI types, and you learn the strengths, the blind spots, the work style, stress triggers, stuff like that. Kind of, it's at your fingertips. So you can be working with this. Now, what I see is you can be working with this with the handwriting, even when the person doesn't have an assessment. I've put in what I suspect their MBTI type is, and I just indicate how I gathered or suspected that using one of the 3 approaches to the assessment. So it's much more useful than I think how the Myers Briggs company thought it might be. And if those who may remember, this is my personality, my bingo board.
Yeah.
It's in the same configuration as the table on the Myers Briggs app. So this is what I was like looking at, that practice on this will get you familiar with the app. And now my articles in those 2 publications that I mentioned, my article about judging and perceiving, goes into how to make use of the way this table is presented to quickly understand that there's a relationship between the top 4, the second column, the top column, the second column, the third column, and the fourth column. There's a relationship between each of these types. And by having these functions on, you can learn that the function part of it, the function attitude part, that's not given on the Myers Briggs app. Okay, so then yeah, this is kind of the different how people are at work based on their type, the strengths and stuff, their blind spots, and then you can also have comparisons of how people interact based upon their type. Now, this is where I see it becoming powerful, okay? You can take your contact list on your phone and integrate it into, I'm not kidding, 21st century, guys. Integrate it into the Myers Briggs type. You got their handwriting, or you can guess their type. Some people are easy to guess. Other people, you try to get their handwriting,
I'll sue you.
Yeah.
Is there a quiz on this app for people to take to find your type? If you don't.
The assessment is a web-based assessment. It's more than, look, let me just tell you, you can use those quizzes, those free quizzes on the internet. They're not necessarily reliable, but you can also look up. I'm just telling you, you can look up things and like I did that. I kind of guessed what my wife's MBTI was, and I had it between 2 different things. And I had her read the description that I found on the internet for those 2 different types. And she picked out the one. And then I had her do the official assessment. And you know what? It came out the same. It's different. The purpose of the MBTI assessment relates to how confident you want to be in something. And then, like, when you see that there's some questions in certain areas, you use things as you need them. So that's what I'm saying. The app is something you can use alone. for what? $10, you know, or $13, 10 pounds, you know. And then I can follow up with an assessment if you need it, that kind of stuff. So yeah, the type comparisons make these interactions better. Yes. Yes, this is where, and the thing is, having this, it's like learning in action, and that's how you learn about personality and how to use type, by applying it, using it, working with people you know, seeing how, you know, learning these little bits. And that's why I see this as a learning device, you know. So any questions about the app? That's the app. I'm going to get into the assessment next. So
Excuse me, could you
yes, go
read
ahead.
a sample of a blind spot?
What's that? The blind
I
spot?
can't read it. It's too small for me to read it.
Oh,
blind spots, yeah.
blind spots are about those areas in that you are likely not to see because of
I know
where.
that.
Okay. And it relates to the functions that you haven't developed.
I know, but like, for example, could you read a blind spot for Trump, for example, what the app would say?
Oh,
Right. No.
Well, you see, if he's an undeveloped S, you know, ESFP, then this isn't going to really identify him very well.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of part of the assessments, which I'll kind of show you in my assessment, because in my assessment there's sort of like a different yeah. Debbie,
I'm just trying to get a feel for what the app would say. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you one in the email, okay? And,
okay, great.
And I'm also looking at, you know, like if we go more in depth on it, I can show you my actual app and we can go through it. You know, like we can go through it where you can see how it's operating live. Okay. So here is my MBTI Global Step 1 assessment. Remember, Step 1 is the 4 factors: extroversion, introversion, you know, sensing, intuition, thinking, feeling, judging, perceiving. Just like you were saying, Judy, see how it's extroversion, introversion is the first thing that goes on here. So what I want you to be aware of, the middle, this is bifurcated so that the questions have you lean more towards one or the other of each of these 4 things. Okay. Lean. And if you notice here where this line, like these lines are in my assessment, they show where I'm leaning, okay, from the questions. It's called the reported, as reported by the results of my assessment. And notice that there's one here that's close to the middle, just a little bit over here. So how far it is to the right or to the left of this mid area is going to show basically how reliable, how strong, you know, how consistent your response is to those questions that place you on that scale.
Mhm.
Okay, and so you see that on my thinking feeling scale, I'm just slightly onto the feeling side, which means that there's sort of things going on that are not necessarily feeling, that maybe maybe if I took the test again, I might be leaning more over on this side. So this thing in the middle shows where somewhat likely to be accurate. Okay. Now, yeah, that's what I want to show there. So here is the results of my step 2 assessment. And I just want, I know you can't really see too closely. So what I want you to just notice here is under extroversion, introversion, see, there's 5 binary facets related to extroversion, introversion. Okay, same thing under sensing, intuition, same thing under thinking, feeling, same thing under judging, perceiving. Okay, so there's these characteristics that give you more precisely what's going on. And I'm going to show now, hold on, let me back up a minute. So most of these, are very clearly in the area, very clearly extroverted, very clearly intuition, very clearly perceiving. Okay. So where I want to look more closely is what's going on with my thinking feeling scale. Okay. So I brought that up. Okay. So here are on the thinking feeling scale of the step 2 assessment is, you can see the mid zone, those facets that relate to the thinking factor and those facets that relate to the feeling factor. Okay. And you can see very clearly in the tender and tough or tender, critical or accepting. Okay. And then the accommodating and questioning. See, these are the facets: questioning or accommodate, reasonable or compassionate, logical or empathetic. Okay, I have a brother who is a dominant introverted thinking person. His dominant thinking, oh boy. He calls me every weekend and we have 2 or 3 hour conversation. But I've really learned yeah, where I'm not so much a thinking. I'll get to that. But this 5 facet, notice I'm in the middle for these 2 facets, the mid zone. Okay, which is showing not necessarily out of preference, but these things are more about the thinking. So think of this way. Step 2 is like showing you in a subscale how what are those skills that are related to those specific functions that you've been developing preference for. You see what I'm saying? So I've told people this before that, let me see, I've told people, well, I'll get into it in a minute. Because, yeah, I'll get into it in a minute. I'm going to leave this at this because now we're going to go into the interactive learning platform that I could go through after I took the assessment to help me think about, okay, what's going on with me with this assessment? Okay. So when we did the handwriting practice at the beginning, you saw screenshots of 2 of these interactive modules about which hand you preferred to write with, you know, and which was your non-preferred, the other hand, and how that felt. So I'm going to show you a few more screenshots so you understand how this interactive module works, and you can go through the assessment and learning platform at your own pace and at your convenience on any device, like on a laptop or on the phone. Okay. So here's like one of the screenshots, the interactive learning platform of the MBTI Complete assessment begins with teaching the basic principles of personality type in easy to understand metaphors. So now think of it this way. This is why I'm like guiding you to the MBTI Complete, because you can do this, have this for your clients, and you don't have to talk to them. I don't have to talk to them. They get everything. They go through this and they can verify what their assessment said, and they learn what it means. So when you're talking to them, you don't have to start at the basics. See, and they can go back to this anytime. They have this forever to learn as much as they want, or however, you know, or maybe later whenever they retire, you know. So yeah, so this is what I want to get to at the end. After I've gone through, I've learned all of this stuff, I've learned what it means, I've been guided to select which one I think I am. Now, you have to realize I haven't seen the results of my assessment yet. I'm just going through selecting what I think I am based upon what I'm learning. And at the end here, they're leading me to, I end up selecting the ENTP. The ENTP, based on reading the descriptions and following kind of the training, I feel like I'm an ENTP. But then they let me know, well, your reported type, what the assessment indicated is that you're an ENFP. Based on your answer to the MBTI questions, you're reported your preference, your preferences as ENFP. And remember that ENFP was sort of, you know, there was a few things that were not fully over there. Is that making sense, guys?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so here is from that chart, ENFP, ENTP. What we see here is that you have extroverted intuition. You have the introverted feeling or introverted thinking in the second position, the auxiliary. And then you have extroverted feeling, if it's in the thinking, introverted thinking, then you're going to have in the tertiary extroverted feeling. And if it's in the ENFP, it's going to be extroverted thinking. Okay. So anyway, just like on the app, the person can tap. Now realize this, your client doesn't need the app. When they take the MBTI Complete, they get this. This is in the module, so they're learning all of this. Okay. They can press on any of these. It's in the same configuration as the app. It gives them the information about, you know, what the letter means, introverted sensing. When you select one of these, it'll go through the basics. What each of these letters mean in that that Myers Briggs type, and a description about each of those, as well as kind of a more overall description as you're going through. Okay. Now, it talks about, for example, the 4 elements of personality type, the pair of opposites. So it's going through everything you would have to tell the person to understand type. This is, like you can learn type and then you're good with it, okay? But then each time one of the problems, Megan, one of the problems I've run into, especially with the quizzes and the popularity of Myers Briggs, is people have misconceptions about what this actually is and how it works. So even if people think they know about Myers Briggs, there are this kind of interactive training. Let me see if I can find one of them. Yeah. I don't think I made one. They actually identify misconceptions people have. For example, if you're a thinking type and not a feeling type, do you not have feelings? And that's a misconception. And so that's explained. It's explained about what is meant by a thinking type, and so on. So you're going, so it doesn't only teach you the basics, it helps to teach, your client where there may be misconceptions about, misunderstandings about the type theory, and guiding them, like this, for example, the way you direct and receive energy. This is how it's interactive. It's saying, am I more about outside world and get energized by interacting with people and taking action? Or am I more energized when I'm on my own inner world and get energized by reflecting on my ideas and experiences? See? And so a person can go through this. And of course, being who I am, I'm like, I don't know. But it's obvious. Why am I doing this whole series of seminars? Because I get energized. How can I ignore that? Even though I have to be totally alone to write an article. So anyway, at the end, brings me back. Remember, after all of these, and there's a lot of lessons. I can go at my own pace, and it's not just these few. These are just to give you an idea. But identifying kind of like a complete, a more narrative of the ENTP type and the ENFP type. And then even having a selection that I can, well, I'm neither of these, I don't feel like I'm either of these, or I'm not sure. Okay. So this is what, then you can have this complete assessment and how they've figured out where they're at, and it pinpoints. This is where I can back you up with, like, if it's not obvious and there's questions that are going on, I'm available to help you figure that out. So you don't have to be the expert. Now, let me show you what I figured out about my assessment. And some of you who have been at some of these earlier ones. So my dominant is extroverted intuition. Okay. My auxiliary is introverted thinking. But when I was in my 30s, I moved out of my library profession. I've been working in libraries for years. and I went to graduate school in counseling, and I started working as a psychotherapist in counseling for helping other people. And actually, before I began that, I was having my own therapy because I figured, well, if I can't, I need to be able to be the patient for a while if I'm going to do it the other way. So I was doing my own therapy. And during that time, what's that old song? I had my 19th nervous breakdown, and I began to move from this introverted thinking auxiliary support to working with this feeling. And it was really slow. But the more, as I worked with clients, I developed these skills with feeling. And so my interpretation of my assessment is that I've developed my feeling function in the tertiary to a much greater degree than I ever realized. It's not just simply in the middle anymore, like it was. I actually took an assessment back in the 90s when I was involved in all of this, and it had moved from scores in the, obvious thinking type into the middle, more of the middle. So is this making sense, guys? And this is how you can bring it together with the function attitude, the factors of the Myers Briggs type, and the handwriting. Yeah, I'm going to keep the handwriting to myself right now. There's too much information there. So in the conclusion then, see, the ENTP is my Myers Briggs type with the caveat that I have developed my tertiary function. Okay. Any questions? We actually did it, guys. I can't believe it. So like I said, I don't just give you this assessment, or have your client give it to you for your client. I'm there for the support and even, collaboration to figure out if this might be useful to you, how to brainstorm how we might make it work, so you can be making use of it, so it can be useful to you. And again, yeah, that's really it. I can't believe we did it. Wow. Almost 90 minutes, just 10 minutes over. So I'm willing if you are. Questions, comments? Let me, maybe I'll let's see. Yeah. Let's open up the screen here. There's still people here. Yeah.
Are you showing in the future, or you already did? Did you show more handwriting samples? Connected to the MBTI, to the
Right, right. We actually did a couple of webinars with the handwriting samples. I'll send you the links.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but also they're really just kind of introductory. So I'm very interested in the continuing with especially working with the handwriting And what I understand, talking with Jens Vinderleef, is I'm looking at putting together the Ania's. I mean, Ania's has like a whole course, and she was an analytical psychologist trained directly under Carl Jung, who was a graphologist trained under actually all of the masters, all of them, Klages, Pavlov, Max Pelva, and I'm looking at gathering most of her materials because she's really the one to follow. And of course, John Beck has a lot of material that I had been collecting, and then there's like, just to kind of be really putting together things we can be learning about handwriting and type and Jungian type. So yeah, if you're interested, just let me know and we'll figure out how to make it happen. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. Yes, guys, maybe. I know.
You.
No more room up here, right?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Let me tell you, next week.
Thank you, Victor.
Is
Lovely. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next week is the power of the pen, and I'm doing my essay on Gestalt psychology and graphology that actually blends in greatly with this. So I'm saying you have a week to rest.
So that's next week. There's another meeting
next Thursday.
Is it the same link as tonight?
Good luck.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yes, same time as this.
But
not
it'll
90
be a different
minutes.
link.
It'll be a 60-minute thing.
Is it the same link as tonight?
No.
No, it's the power of the pen. I'll send out a link.
Yeah, if you would.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Who's that talking?
Megan,
okay. Yeah, I think I have. Send me an email, Megan, to make sure. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'll make sure you get the link. So the Gestalt psychology and graphology, the reason I was writing about that is because the Gestalt is how it's really about how all of this was developing with the characterology and the Jungian type and stuff like that. And since I wrote that essay, I've been reading this massive tome that's actually made me feel very ignorant about what I wrote in that essay. So one of the founders, let me tell you, this is fascinating. One of the founders of Gestalt psychology, when he was doing his dissertation at about the same time, 1904, as Carl Jung was doing his word association research at that mental hospital in Zurich, they were using the same approach, but the one Carl Jung was in a clinical setting, and the other was a legal setting. He was using the lie detector technology in 1904 with the same protocol of testing, word association testing, and there was a big controversy about who was first, about priority of publishing between Carl Jung and this guy, I forget his name. He's like the big name in Gestalt psychology. The first one when you name the 3 people that started it. So it really shows you. I think they were in the same guys. What is it? Spirit of the time.
Victor, do you mean Fritz Perls?
Not
For
Fritz
Gestalt?
Perls. No, not Fritz Perls. Fritz Perls is no. This is the German Fritz Perls. No. You're thinking of Gestalt therapy, which is very different. Not Trump.
Okay.
Come next week, I'll have it. Yeah.
Thank you, Victor.
Yeah, take
Yeah.
care,
that's
Claudia.
great.
Thank you,
Yeah.
We'll be in
everybody.
touch, Claudia. Yeah, we'll
Thank you
We'll
very
stay
much.
contact.
I know it's
Great.
late there.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks
Bye.
for coming, Claudia. Take care.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank
Oh,
you.
yeah.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you,
Bye.
Victor.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye. Take
Bye.
care, guys. I'll close up.